All right, so we're done with 2021 and we're hitting 2022. And for all of you guys out there that might be considering a home for the first time, this video is for you. Guys, what's going on? It's Dan from Pekoe Mortgages, and today I am talking specifically to you folks that are first-time home buyers or are considering buying a home for the first time in maybe a long time you haven't purchased in a while. Today, let's jump into it. My advice for first-time home buyers. So really here, guys, 2022 is shaping up to be, at least by most predictions here, another banner year for sellers. But as a buyer, this doesn't really help you guys out. So we are currently sitting in a seller's market. In a seller's market, you can have a lot of competition. And the key here is to try and get a leg up on the competition and win that bid. Because at the end of the day, that's the objective, right? If you're a first-time home buyer, you're looking to eventually get into a home for yourself, and there's a few steps along the way that will make that a little bit easier for you guys. So the number one thing I think that's really important is setting expectations. So keep in mind, like I said, it's a seller's market, and being a seller's market, you'll have quite a few experiences, if you haven't already, where maybe you put a bid in to a property that you've fallen in love with, really, and you found out that there are multiple other offers on there, and you think, okay, well, what's going on? Why is this happening? It's just the market. And right now, with demand outstripping supply across the nation, we're saying from coast to coast, essentially any market you're looking to buy in, there are supply issues going on. So what that leads in this type of market is often that houses are not being priced at their selling price. And there's a few reasons for doing this, but the one that's really important here is something that I personally experienced a few years ago when I was putting an offer in on a property, is that when you're dealing with multiple offers on a property and the listing price is pretty reasonable for what you consider a property, oftentimes that leads to bidding wars. And that's something that oftentimes can get you in a little bit of trouble. So the number one thing here, guys, is that you want to be able to, I say the A-team. So you want to assemble an A-team. And your A-team really is consisting of a few people that are helping you in moving towards getting a home. There's a few people that are involved in the purchase. So you've got a lawyer. The solicitor, your closing lawyer, will oftentimes help you in being able to review, for example, in a condominium, a status certificate. So it's really important to line up a lawyer that you trust and you know and is there to be able to answer any questions you have. So lawyers are really important in this. Real estate agent. So real estate agents, if you're not buying privately, you're likely going to be using the resources of a real estate agent. And I like to say, because I do work with quite a few, not all of them are created equally. So you want to focus on real estate agents that know your market. So in this scenario, let's say you're moving from a larger metropolitan area like Toronto and you're looking to move north of the city, Barrie, or maybe east of the city, Kingston. So you want to make sure that you are employing a local real estate agent that really knows the area, and that's super important. Once you've got a real estate agent lined up, you've got your lawyer. I think the most important thing here when it comes to your budget is working with a mortgage broker. So mortgage brokers like myself are going to help you determine what's a reasonable budget. So keep in mind, you do have to adhere to the guidelines that are federally put in place so that your gross debt service and your total debt service ratios, we have minimum credit requirements. And before you spend any time doing sort of the fun thing when it comes to shopping for a home, it's also stressful too, but you want to figure out what exactly your budget is. So the mortgage broker or your banker is going to help you determine that budget before you do anything. So I advise you kind of do that in sequence. So you talk to a mortgage broker, figure out your budget, talk to a real estate agent, in that area that you're looking to buy in. And then also figure out a lawyer. Oftentimes, too, a lawyer can close interprovincially. So if you're looking at a different market, that lawyer typically will be able to take care of your closing within the province that you're moving into. So that's your A team. And the important thing here too, guys, is that we're not all separate. So oftentimes you'll be working with a real estate agent that doesn't know who your mortgage broker is, or your mortgage broker has no idea who your real estate agent is. And then when it comes time to putting an offer in, you're not on the same page. So it's always a good idea to invite everyone into the conversation. So simple email invitation so everyone can kind of get on the right page. Just keep in mind, we're all here to help you close on the home. So being able to answer any questions really quickly, if we all know who's involved in the process, just makes things way smoother for you. So some advice here, or a few things to consider. Number one is cover your butt. So strategically, CYA, cover your butt. And this comes down to the offer that you're putting on the property. So when you draft an offer with your real estate agent, oftentimes you'll have conditions on that offer. So I spoke of a status certificate, which is really pretty much a standard thing when you're purchasing a condominium. And status certificates, usually that condition is in there to be reviewed and signed off on. Other things like home inspections, appraisals, financing condition. So sometimes a seller is looking for a stronger offer, and you might be able to, I would say, limit some of the conditions you put on the offer. You might be able to, for example, when it comes to a home inspection, line up a home inspection prior to putting in the offer, or sometimes that seller will actually have one available prior to the offer, so you can just eliminate that altogether. But keep in mind that these provisions are here to just kind of cover your butt in the event that something is discovered, whether it's discovered with the property, so maybe there's a leaky roof, you've got some foundational issues, anything like that, or if it comes to the financing where the property is not something that's serviceable, or there's an issue, let's say it's a well and septic, or something comes up, you're being covered with those conditions. Second thing, don't fall for FOMO. So the fear of missing out. This is really important because this plays on sort of the psychology or the behavior behind buying your first home. It's kind of like when you walk into a dealership to pick out a car for the first time. You get really excited about it. You see something, you fall in love, and you just want to take it home that same day. When it comes to housing, it's no different, especially if you're buying your first property. So I always try to advise clients and people that I'm working with to just try and keep the emotional aspect in check. And I know it can be really difficult because you might see a place and you find out that you've lost out, or it's sold for a lot more than you were expecting. But just keep in mind that you will find your house. It'll come along, but being too emotionally driven or involved can lead to some financial circumstances that are less than optimal. So for example, if you've put in too high of a bid on a property and the appraisal comes in lower, well, then we've got an issue because the lender will only lend on the appraised value or the purchase price, whichever is lower. So keep that in mind. You want to go in with a strong offer, but you also want to go in with a smart offer. This one is really important, talking to a mortgage broker or your banker and just figuring out your strategy when you go in. So oftentimes you do have a limit, and that limit is based on your affordability, so your income, your debt, those debt ratios, and your credit score. But maybe it's not the best thing to max out your affordability, right? So working with a mortgage broker so we can kind of figure out what exactly it is that your goal is, and is it within your affordability? That's so important. So make sure you stay on budget. And the last one, I know it's one here where if you do see a property, but you're kind of hesitant because, well, maybe the school's a little bit further away, or I wanted something closer to my favorite coffee shop, or, this is in a neighboring town, I'm not sure. I would just say that if it's your first home, you're not going to get that Instagram home. You're not going to have that home that's got, the white picket fence and everything you're looking for. You're going to have to compromise. The good news is that a lot of these things can be fixed, right? So if you're into home improvements or DIY, you can really make a little fun project out of making that place your own. But you can't hesitate when you're going into a bidding war. You're going in to put an offer in a market where it's predominantly dictated by the sellers. You just want to make sure you're going in with a strategic plan and you don't hesitate. So you know what your budget is, you know what your maximum is, and you can go in there with a strong offer. So that's those are sort of my tips there, or things to kind of watch out for. A few other things to consider right now. I mentioned this, you're not going to get the perfect home. So starter homes are really different, or starter properties are so different than someone that maybe is going for their second property. They've grown a family and, they need some more room. Just keep in mind your first property, when you're buying for the first time, you're going to have to make some compromises. It's just typically the way it works. So if you can make peace with the fact that you're not going to get the perfect home, you can make it the perfect home. Just know that it probably isn't going to tick all of those boxes. Another important thing, like I said, is to keep your head in the game. So logically, play this like a game, but you want to have a game plan, right? You don't want to just go in and emotionally bid on a property because of, again, FOMO. We don't want no FOMO. The other one, talking to your mortgage broker, means getting your budget in check. So don't live beyond your means. And I know it's pretty simple in theory, but if you can, keep in mind this is your first home. It's not going to have everything you want, but if it's what you need right now, it could be enough. So you don't have to go right up to the top of your budget. And then the last one is being flexible. And this is so important. So when I talk about flexibility means maybe you're not going to get that home next month. Don't put a deadline on it. You also want to take into consideration that maybe that house that you're looking for really isn't out there right now. So it's okay to wait. If you can afford to wait for the property, put together a checklist or a spreadsheet. I like to do kind of like a little like must-have, and then things I don't really care but are nice to have, and then just kind of figure out what it is that you really need in a home. So being flexible with that, being flexible with your closing, and being flexible with your affordability, maybe where the house is, if you can afford to live in a different town than you work, or can work remotely, maybe that's an option for you, and going into a more affordable house. The other thing is, I've seen a lot of first-time home buyers is looking at properties that maybe have a rental unit. So if you're able to rent out the basement, let's say right now you're living in a condo, it's only one floor. Typically they're one floor. So if you're going into a house and you're able to rent out the basement or an upper level or something, that can help for helping to offset the costs and maybe get you into a place that is a little bit more affordable monthly. So be flexible. That is so important in all of this. Anyway, that's all I've got today, guys. I just wanted to really touch for you guys that are first-time home buyers or haven't been in the market for a while. It can be a little challenging. 2022 is likely going to be very similar to what we've seen in the last few years. And it's so important that if you're a buyer, don't get discouraged. Do your homework, make a game plan, and stick to it, right? And just make sure that you're not being beaten down psychologically. I'll tell you, I went back into the market for buying a couple of years ago, and even though I'm in the industry and I'm working and I see this daily, it was tough. It was tough not to be disappointed when you lose out on a property for the first time, but stick with it. I know you'll get it. And like I said, if you need any help, reach out to your real estate agent, reach out to your lawyer, reach out to your mortgage broker. We're all here to help you out. I love to hear you guys in the comments below. Like, subscribe, that really helps me out. And comment, I'd love to hear how you're coming along with your search for a home. Okay, guys, take care.